Okay, today we're at the Red Rose Diner, and I had the privilege and honor of running into some people from Colorado who are like-minded in terms of their permaculture needs and stuff. And what happened, apparently there's an aviation connection here, and of course most of you know I'm crazy about airplanes and stuff, so you want to introduce yourself and tell about your famous grandfather.
Yeah, my name is Michelangelo Conrad. I live in Norwood, Colorado, southwest Colorado at this time. I'm here visiting Towanda, doing genealogy research on my family. My grandfather lived south of here in Lock Haven. He worked for Piper, William Piper, I believe his name is. He would deliver planes all over the world, Piper aircraft. His name is Maximilian Conrad. My family here is the Benjamins and the Vanderpool family.
That's a famous families around here.
Yeah, so my mother is a Vanderpool and my father is a Conrad. And we're just on our way to New Jersey for a wedding at this time.
Whereabouts in New Jersey are you going?
We're going to Beach Haven.
Okay.
In Long Beach Island.
I know Long Beach Island.
Yeah, so it'll be nice living in the mountains, going to the ocean and enjoying the beach and swimming, body surfing.
So the Comanches seems to me was the weapon of choice with your grandfather. He set many world records on ultimate all-out distances.
Right, Piper Comanche.
And one of the longest ones he did was, I think, only had 180 horsepower. So he was so loaded with fuel when he took off. I don't know what kind of runway he needed, but obviously, if anything ever happened, it would have been all over. So.
Right.
And you mentioned your dad actually took at least one long flight with him. It was transatlantic or something?
Yeah, well, my grandfather, he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for a bit, for a few years, for the most flight hours. He had almost just under 7 years of flight hours.
Okay, wow.
And he was the second person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean after Lindbergh.
Huh.
And what was the question?
The flight that your dad took with Max, with his father. They went across the Atlantic. How old was he when this happened?
Oh yeah, so he was 14 years old. So he was the youngest person at the time to fly across the Atlantic Ocean, and I believe this was around 1950, late 50s. Anyways.
Okay. Now, what was going to say? Bear with me here. You're into permaculture, and I don't know if you know. There's a guy in Oregon who has a book, and if you leave your email address and stuff, I'll try to get you the name of it. But this guy worked on developing techniques to grow things in arid locations, and what he found is that I found the book on the book's actually on what's that whole book thing? It's called the Guggenheim or something. Was it the
Bill Mollison's book?
No. There's the Gutenberg Project, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And they have all these books on their files of these books. But one of the things he found out is that if you separate the plants far enough,
right,
and eliminate all the weeds,
that
the plants typically will be able to adapt to very arid situations because they send out a humongous. And he was saying that a lot of times when they have a drought, that instead of losing your entire crop, what you do is you pull out every other plant, and the remaining plants
thin them out.
Will have more water left in the soil to survive.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that was. I'll have to find that reference to you on that.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about what we've done there for water?
Well, yeah, in Norwood.
You want to say hello?
Hi. I'm Jessica. I'm his wife.
And a very supportive of a wife. They're into this permaculture farm out in Colorado. So
yeah, we're growing herbs and vegetables, and we got chickens. And we to bring nitrogen in the soil, and to kind of keep the moisture in the soil. We throw a lot of mulch down. We ask the local tree companies to drop off loads of mulch.
That is terrific.
Because it's dry out where we live. We live in between the canyon lands and the alpine mountainous areas. So it's a lot of sagebrush and pinon and ponderosa and juniper trees.
Now, do you have any nitrogen fixing plants? We have up here called what is it called? Russian olive, cardinal bush that they have out here. And
Well,
Those are invasive by
I know
us.
they're invasive, but the point
Yeah.
is the berries have
Yeah.
like 28 times the lycopene that you have in tomatoes.
yeah.
Really?
And they're nitrogen fixing.
Right. Interesting.
So-
we might have to look into that because
so-
they grow well around us.
Mhm.
Yeah, they do.
What
They're
I'm
pretty.
using for nitrogen fixing is the clover.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Clover and the clover grows
Alfalfa.
wonderful, and alfalfa, and yeah, it brings it. I've really improved our land with making swales, so when it rains during the monsoon
Mhm.
season, which is now in the month of July and August, is the monsoon season. It's like the only time it rains a whole lot, and it comes in downpours really heavily, and then it could go after monsoon or before monsoon. It could go a couple months without any
Wow.
moisture whatsoever. So when it rains, we like to hold that water on our property, so we just create swales
Mhm.
so the sheet of water just coming down the land just gets stopped at those
Sure.
swales and just soak into the ground, and then the mulch that we have, like a couple inches of mulch, just shades it and protects it from wind and sun, and all the plants are on there, and the trees, they're all blooming right now.
Now, do you have a lot of earthworms at all, or are
We
they-
do. I mean, not
Especially in the mulch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our original mulch pile, actually.
All
If
right.
you dig into
Not-
it, it's really wet and full of...
Did you add earthworms, or the?
We did not so much, but I used to go to a coffee shop. I don't do this anymore, but I got maybe 1,000 pounds of
Coffee grounds?
of grounds,
Wow.
coffee grounds, and I've noticed that the earthworms have exploded around the coffee grounds, and yeah,
I made a pulper, where
Oh,
you
yeah.
take all kinds of boxes and everything, and
Yeah.
you basically put them in this drum of water. And what I used is an auger from one of these tulip bowl diggers,
yeah,
and I put it on the end of a washing machine motor.
oh yeah,
And so there's no gearing or anything, and it will not hang up on anything. And it'll eventually, over a period of time, mulch everything down to a pulpit down to, so you pour it around your plants.
yeah.
And of course the earthworms go nuts underneath it and eventually eat it all up. So,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That is a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much waste that we could recycle and reuse, and instead of throwing
How
in the
about the
landfill.
telephone books? We read about that as a
Telephone
technique.
bowls. I don't know if you heard of this, where you take a lot of cardboard or telephone books or just paper waste, and dig a hole, especially in arid regions.
Mhm.
You dig a hole next to a tree that you're going to plant,
Okay.
and you fill it with telephone books or
Okay.
cardboard, and throw a few inches of soil on top of that.
Hmm.
And then when it does rain or the snow melt,
The
after
sponge,
snow melt,
right?
it just sponges up and it holds moisture for forever. So the roots could tap into that, and when there's dry seasons, then they're not suffering. The roots are just feeding off.
Well,
that
any
sponge.
organic stuff you can get down there
Yeah.
is phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
well, listen, I really appreciate you guys stopping by,
Thank you.
and
Thank
it was
you.
Yeah,
this
thank
is
you,
this is
Joe.
what makes having this place worthwhile. We get some
Yeah.
interesting visitors, and you got two beautiful children there, and they behave. It's super. So,
Very social.
well, thank you very much, and
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I'll get you that information on that guy in Oregon. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye bye.